So when it comes to exercise and fitness, the one thing that we all have in common is a starting point. We've all got to start somewhere. As to how far we progress or how much success we have, that very much depends on the person. I mean, let's be honest, we all start here. Some of us go to this level, maybe this level. By the time you go up to elite international level, most of us are just watching it by that point. However, some people are actually still actively competing. Jade, when it comes to you, I think you definitely fall into that category, don't you? Having taken it all the way to the Olympics.
Guess so. Yeah, I like it when you put it like that. I'm like, I just carried on all the way.
Well, I was just thinking, you think of all the people that do exercise, whether it's park run or anything like that. I've always wondered what the motivation is for people, or how far they're willing to push themselves. Because, I mean, I know even in athletics, you have ones that are just to compete at like local, league, sort of level is one thing. Then you have ones that strive just to get to the qualifying standard, just to get to national championships. Then you've got that level. Then you've got medaling at national championships. Then you've got internationals, and you just swept all the way through.
Well, I
So
mean, it definitely wasn't quite as simple as that.
no,
I did not, I wouldn't say I was a massively talented athlete or anything like that. Obviously, some talent, yes, but that progression is exactly how I feel like it went. I didn't even know of the Olympics when I got into athletics.
yeah,
Like, I just did it at school because it
yeah.
crops up in PE. So
You know what?
I
That's
started like everybody else.
Yeah, I was. That's what I was curious about. Is that when, first of all, I mean, well, it's. Did you start out with your event at the time, or was it you came across it as time went by? How does it?
Yeah. So we did so in the UK, in London in particular, you do borough sports.
Right.
I did that for Merton Borough, and like it was sold as a sports day, I
Mm.
guess. And I was like, sure, I like sports, I'll do that. And my PE teachers, I fancied them at the time, so
Yeah.
whatever they were going to ask me to do, I was like,
Yeah.
yep, sign me up, here I am. So that was like an easy sell, and they
Mhm.
put me in for high jump because I was tallest,
Right.
and I'd heard of that one.
Yeah.
And then I did it. I wasn't very good. I didn't
Yeah.
win or anything, and I was like, yeah, don't love it. And then my friend who was so I was at Bishopsford. It's not called that now.
Okay.
And she was at a school called Tamworth, although I don't think it's called that now either. And she said she was throwing like these plates in the same competition that I was at. And I was like, nah, I didn't see any plates. I don't know what this plate game is. And she
Yeah.
was like, yeah, yeah. And we joined the club. So that was Wimbledon, Hercules Wimbledon, and that's
Heard of
where
them.
the borough sports were. Yeah. And we joined there just because we did it in PE. So we joined the local club. We had a go, and we saw in the cupboard, just the store cupboard, these discuses on the floor. And she was like, "These are the plates. These are what we throw." And I was like, "Yeah, I've never seen these before." And
Right.
she was like, "Let's ask the coach." And we did. And then I don't know, there's probably about five, six, seven of us, a small
Yeah.
group. We all had to go at throwing the discus, and I beat everyone in that. And I was like, "I like
Right.
this one. This one's better."
Yeah.
And then we had to go at shot. I don't know if I'm a lazy athlete, but I know what I do like and I know what I don't. I don't like running. I've never been
Okay.
a cardio
Right.
person.
Yeah.
Every single person will tell you I am not a cardio person.
Right.
And that's been from the very get-go. I'm no runner. I
It-
will
Right. Yeah.
happily, I'm not
Yeah.
even going to pretend I'm no
Right.
runner.
Yeah.
And when we joined in this club, it was a jumps coach that was teaching us the basics of throws, and he was pro running because he's jumps, and we had to keep doing it. And it was just like, and then we kind of eventually phased out of that, and then we just kept doing a bit more throwing.
Yeah.
We didn't do much hammer because that no one likes it on the grass. Everyone's got issues with throwing hammer on the grass, and I feel like the UK in particular, football's on the grass. We don't want to ruin it for them. Just the grass looks nice. We don't want to ruin it for that. So hammer, we never really did. We had a little go, but not massive. But short and discus were definitely the ones. And
Right.
then, like you said, it literally went from school to maybe like an inter school. So it was Surrey counties.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yeah, as you jumped up a level, you realized how bad you were and how far off you were. And then, I would just stick with it for another year.
Yeah.
And then I might come, I think like one of the times I came top six in the county, which like wasn't great. And it
Yeah.
was like, if this person doesn't do it, you get to go English schools, but you still need to qualify. And it's like the top five, if they all don't do it
Right.
and you have the standard, you get to go to English schools. I was like, I've never heard of English schools.
Right.
So it literally just jumped from that borough sport to Surrey counties to inter counties to
Right.
English school. And
Yeah.
every time I went up, you can see the ones that are talented. Like physically, I'm, I guess, talented in that I was tallest, usually tallest.
Yeah.
Um, but you could see the people with technique. They had real shoes, like throwing shoes. They had like real lycra. I was just
Yeah.
rocking up in shorts and t-shirt and having a go.
Right. Yeah.
And then yeah, and then it would be like, every time I did a particular competition, I'd see that person winning, and
Mm.
eventually I'd beat that person, and then I
Right.
might get projected into the next level,
Yeah.
and then I would realize how bad I am again, and then it like another year had
But then
passed, and
you like repeat the process. You see that's
yeah,
it, work
it's
toward it.
literally that.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Next level.
yeah, and I never. I mean, I don't remember ever feeling like a big fish in a small pond. I mean, maybe I did have that because yeah, just maybe I did. I don't remember that. I always remember feeling once you beat this person
Mm.
or you're the best in this area, you just get into the next one, and
Yeah.
then you're the worst again, and then you
Right.
go into the next one and you're the worst again. So it was
Yeah.
a constant, wow, the better you get, the worse you realize you are.
Yeah.
It was just that. So that just kept going. And
Yeah.
I think, again, I not because I'm massively talented, just because of just environment. Like I work hard because of the environment that I was like brought up in, and like things you see.
Yeah.
Like I was brought up on an estate, and just like there's just some things that happen
Yeah.
around like either home life or like who your friends are at school. Like you
Mm.
see similar things, say
Mm.
like that you see a lot of people like with no jobs complaining that they've got no money, and there's a lot of complainers, I guess, in my world at that time, and I didn't like it, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those people, so I kept doing sport because it took me away from that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
you
you know,
just realize.
I think you've touched on something because like, I know with me personally, I'm sure that because I was very late getting into sport myself, but it does give you a confidence, doesn't it? Because I know a lot of people around me at the time weren't really doing exercise at all, and
Yeah,
it's very easy to just slip into that, just doing nothing and just slash
yeah.
play. But I just,
Especially when everyone around you's doing that, or most people around you are doing that,
yeah,
and like you don't even know. Like the better I got at sport, and obviously then the worse I realized I was. Like there's this whole other world of opportunity
yeah,
and things. Like I'd always ask my dad, so my dad would always take me to these competitions. And we're like, oh, I've entered a competition in Woking. Where's Woking? And he's like, oh God, okay. And then we'd like get out the map and then
yeah,
like start seeing where Woking is. And
yeah.
I've just aged myself by opening
I
physically this map, but that's how it was in the day.
Yeah,
Um,
I used to have. Do you know when I moved to Cardiff, I had someone said to me, "Get," because I didn't know my way around. She said, "Buy a map of Cardiff, pin it on your wall, and learn how to get around." It's just what we did.
oh, there you go. That's useful. There
I
you
know.
go.
Yeah,
Now I can barely get around my own street without GPS. Like I
yeah,
have to have my phone. Like
yeah.
life is on my phone now.
I know we've got so used
Um,
to it, haven't we? Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
yeah,
But yeah, that then like I just enter. I'd go online on the dial up,
yeah.
aging myself again,
That's it.
and entering these competitions. And I'm like, I don't know where this one. I'll be like, is Scunthorpe far? And he's like, yes, we're
Yeah.
not going there. And I'm like, right, okay, not an option. Fine,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
fine. So yeah, you start learning about geography
Yeah.
because you're like, where can I travel? Where can't I travel?
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, it just got up and up and up. And then I realized that you could represent the country because I don't like, my first Olympics was 20 to watch and being aware of it
Okay.
was Athens 2004.
Oh, Athens was that 96? The Athens one. Yeah, it was.
2004.
That's that one. Sorry, my mistake.
Atlanta, are you talking about? Was
I'm
that Atlanta
That's
96?
Atlanta. Sorry. Yeah, I'm
So
showing my age
close.
now.
So close. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was my first Olympics I was even aware of. Like
Yeah.
I'd never sat and watched the Olympics. In hindsight, I now remember like of the Sydney Olympics,
Yeah.
but I definitely didn't watch it or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Athens, I remember watching Kelly Holmes cross the line, and that's when I was like, oh, athletics and all these other things. And later, like one of my idols, I realized that she went to those Olympic Games, and in 2008,
Right.
I realized she went to her second Olympic Games. That was Philippa Rolls, who's
Right.
like, I can't even remember what year she died, but yeah, she's not here now.
Oh, okay.
But I remember knowing that
Yeah.
she went to two Olympic Games, and remember like seeing her in real life, knowing it's just like, oh my God, I'm now not on the same level, but I'm now going to these competitions
Yeah.
where I know you went to an Olympic Games. This is ridiculous. This is
Yeah.
such a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And then that's when you start getting, inspiration, because now you're suddenly doing these competitions that like really good athletes are now doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then again, obviously you're being completely trounced all over because you are not at that level. But it was just really nice going to a competition where these people can do these things, and it's
Yeah.
just like it's just crazy.
I suppose it helps you keep raising your game because, like you said, back in the early days, you get to that one, the first competition you do, then you're beating everyone. If you just
Yeah,
then just contented yourself with that, you would have never experienced the rest of it. You have to keep repeating that cycle over and over, don't you? Because
yeah, absolutely. And I think like with the new level that you'd go to,
yeah,
and you suddenly realise that there's an opportunity to represent the south of England. I remember seeing that vest,
yeah,
and just thinking, wow, what a big thing that is to represent. And it had
mm,
south. It was a blue and red vest, and I was just like, it just had south in massive letters,
right,
and I was like, wow, the
yeah,
south of England is
yeah,
such a big thing. And it was a really hard vest to get. That took me years to get. I think I got a full international before I got that vest. I don't know why
really,
that took me so long.
wow,
Yeah, I don't know why. I
yeah,
don't know if I just wasn't selected, or like the opportunities were less.
yeah,
They were like territory competitions rather
yeah,
than whatever else. But it took me a long time to get there. And once I got it, like I don't even know where that vest is now, but it's
yeah,
safe. It's in a drawer
yeah,
tucked away because that took me such a long
yeah,
time to get. And then yeah, I remember being selected for my first GB match, which was in Loughborough, and that was in 2006.
okay,
And it was pouring with rain. It was a terrible competition. I'm quite sure I came last, but it was really interesting just because I knew these names. And back then there was no social media, so I didn't really know what these
yeah,
people looked like. I just knew the names. And then when you're looking and you can see like the names on their
yeah,
tops and stuff, you're just like, oh my God. And I remember seeing now she's like my best friend. I was a bridesmaid at a wedding. Like we're such good friends and we've been friends for years. But I remember being starstruck at
mm,
that Loughborough competition. And I
yeah,
was a GB junior. She was representing Scotland. And yeah, and I just remember like Kirsty Law's going to appear, and I was like, wow, Kirsty Law, that's
yeah,
that's a big thing. And Philippa, I'm quite sure would have been there representing Wales. So it was just like these are big names at this
yeah,
point. And then I think 2 years after that was my first international when I went to Croatia and I represented England.
right,
So and that was just an eye-opening thing. I couldn't believe I was getting to go to a country. Someone was
yeah,
flying me to a country just to go and do this discus competition.
yeah,
Like it was crazy. It was
yeah,
just so surreal. And again, I didn't do very well, and I think there was another English girl that got picked. Kirsty was picked,
mm,
and like we did it, and I can't remember how I did. I just remember like I didn't win or anything.
yeah,
But I was just like, how crazy that I'm here, like doing
yeah,
these things. And they did it really weird there. We threw and they just put pins in the ground. And
right.
then basically at the end of the competition, they measured your one furthest throw. And I was like,
Oh,
is that how the rest of the world are doing this? And I've never experienced it since. That was my first
so
international
effectively,
competition.
you did not know what distance you were doing on each of the throws. You just,
No, you just had a stick in the ground. That was it. And you were trying to throw over your stick with other people's stick because it was obviously just the furthest throw. They put a stick in. It was like, oh, this is really hard. Like I haven't
am I right?
done it like this before.
If there's okay, let's use an example. Okay, so they literally have like a stick in the ground. What if the
Yeah,
discus comes on? Can it potentially whack it? Or
yeah,
yeah, oh,
yeah.
that sounds
I
strange.
mean, that could have happened. I don't
Yeah,
know. I was just like, oh, obviously this is how the rest of the world do it, and this
yeah,
is something I've got to get used to if this
yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
going to try and do from now on.
yeah.
And since then, yeah, absolutely nobody has done it. I've never seen it since. I've never seen it ever,
No,
just in that one time.
wow. Yeah,
So yeah, that was an eye-opening
yeah,
thing. And different currencies and different languages,
yeah,
and obviously being put with people that you don't know, like having
yeah.
to just room with strangers. And yeah, there's like so many things that come with that. And obviously I would have been about like late teens, 18, 19
Right.
ish. maybe 20.
Yeah.
But like, there's not that many people that would have experienced that, or not certainly in my not in my circles
Yeah.
that would have done that. So
Well, no,
yeah, it was just like
well, at that
another
age,
world.
I hadn't even gone. My first time going to the gym, I was 20. So I was a bit late.
Well, there you go.
You
Yeah,
know, at your age, I wasn't. Yeah, that stuff like that was completely alien to me. Uh,
yeah.
so were you funded for that? Did they pay your expenses and whatnot to go? Or
Yeah, so if you represent a country,
yeah,
they'll pay for your travel and the accommodation.
right.
Typically, yeah, if you compete on a Saturday, you would fly out Friday, compete Saturday, fly home Sunday.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds like some of the rowing competitions where it would generally be just like a long weekend, or if it's not too far away, it's like a 2 day 2 day sort of thing. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, in our sport we have to pay our way, so a couple of them would get
Yeah,
funded.
I mean, yeah, it's always like I'm always moaning about, especially British athletics. I'm always moaning and blah blah blah. And also, I think because there is such a disparity between the events, like
Yeah,
sprinters get X amount of money and X amount of exposure and
yeah,
prize money and all this other stuff, and then jumpers get something, and then throwers get something, and then like
right.
road athletes get something. So there is always quite a clear
Yeah.
difference between who gets what. So within your realm, you complain because you're like, well, these people got it much better than us.
Well, do you know, I've noticed the few because a mate of mine who I don't know if I'm assuming she's still a member of Belgrave Parish. She kind of roped me into that years ago where I tried a few things out. But when we would
Yeah,
go
yeah,
to a few athletics events, or even like when the Commonwealth 2014 or the London 2012 Olympics, what we noticed,
yeah.
even the commentator in the arena, it's almost as if all the focus is on the track. They're completely they're
Always,
yeah, and
always.
like that feels a bit unfair, really, because there's events going on and they're
Yeah,
not paying attention to it. So I guess
yeah,
is that what they mean in terms of some events getting more funding than others, sort of thing? Is that
yeah. I mean, I used to give not talks, but I used to do some mentoring for it used to be, it wasn't England athletics, but it was to English
mm,
athletes, young athletes.
mm,
And I remember talking to people and the track athletes in the room and the sprinters in particular. I
mm,
said, you are going to get, and I think at that point I'd already been to the Olympics, and I'm like, I've got no sponsorship, no funding, nothing official. I said, there'll be people in this room that are going to be signed by Nike, Adidas, or
mm,
Puma, and they're going to be professional athletes. And I'm going to have sat here the whole time
yeah,
and got none of that. And I think it was later on that year, one of the young athletes was signed by, I think it was Adidas, and
right,
she's now a professional athlete.
right,
Has been for years, has been ever since that
yeah,
year. And we're talking like, I'd say it was about 10 years ago or something, maybe not 10, maybe near
wow,
10.
yeah,
I'm just like, yeah. And you've achieved on paper, well, nothing.
yeah,
You've just got a lot of potential because you are going
yeah,
to be seen
yeah,
far more than I will be seen.
yeah,
And we went to the same similar competitions, championships, and
right,
she was seen. I think even no, only it was only relay, as in like singly relay, not individually as well.
yeah,
Um, and it's just like you still got more exposure as a
yeah,
relay athlete than I did as an individual
yeah,
qualifying for this competition because yeah, unfortunately, it's just what the media have kind of given the audience, and now the
yeah,
audience want to know about all this stuff. So even like Michael Johnson and that new thing that he's got for just track athletes and giving the track athletes that have the most money, more money and more exposure. And it's
right,
just like in a year where like Ryan Krauser and Joe Kovacs, like the men's shot put just took off. Like it's just absolutely taken off,
yeah,
and it's like they've got nothing. Like who? What event? Sure. Okay, yeah, cool. We got the top 100 in the sprint events here, and it's like it could be sold. It could
yeah,
be sold, but if
yeah.
nobody wants to sell it, I just think a lot of throwers are kind of they're purist people. So I don't think I don't know. They're just going to be like, nah, it is what it is. And it is kind of down to us to try and change it. But it's really hard to try and be the business minded person
I'm
and
just
try and
thinking
focus
it's
on your event and
that's
do everything else.
do you know what I found even like in my sport and indoor rowing is that you get some people who can just turn up, you focus on your event and you can get the most out of yourself. As soon as you start trying to get involved in either organizing an event or other bits,
Yeah.
your performance starts to drop. And
Yeah.
my performances were dropping. and my mates just couldn't understand why, and I knew why because I was getting, my focus was getting
Yeah,
diverted, and then
yeah.
some of the others started doing the same thing, doing a bit more behind the scenes. Their performance went down as well. So yeah,
Rich, obviously super rich,
yeah,
but he's had I think a couple of like comments about someone like Michael Johnson with the idea of the track event. But he's not worth even the Netflix series. He's not worth mentioning on there, or because they're focusing on the track athletes. And is it because Mondo's just one person?
right,
Is it because we need a few people in pole vault for it to
right,
take off a little bit. And then so I don't know. But
yeah,
like what he's doing as an individual
mm,
is like beyond Usain Bolt.
yeah,
And Usain Bolt brought in obviously a lot of people,
yeah,
and no one was beating him at his prime, and no one is beating Mondo at his prime.
no,
But Mondo isn't bringing in the people the same way that Usain
yeah.
Bolt would bring in people.
I mean,
So I think people are naturally going to gravitate towards track, and I'm not hating on the track. I just wish that something was being a bit more proactively done with the
yeah,
field events instead
yeah,
of actively promoting something that really doesn't need any more promotion.
yeah,
Try and bring it in when Diamond League is taking away attempts for the field eventers and making it down to 4 trials rather than 6, but nothing
really,
happens with the track. Yeah, like all these things to make it more
yeah,
entertaining
right,
and stuff. That's what they say. And it's like, doesn't need to be any more entertaining. You just need to give the audience a little bit of background or
mm,
some sort of reality so we can understand. Because if you just show the winner, the
yeah,
same way as in the 10K, if you show the winner and do the last, yeah, I have watched on YouTube. There was a real, I think it was maybe 2004 in the Athens Olympics. I think it was the women's javelin. Like it was something like there was some huge throw that it just like maybe smashed the Olympic record, and then it was like, oh my god, this person's definitely going to win, and then someone out of nowhere just responded and went
yeah,
beyond that, and I was like,
yeah,
who is she? Where has
yeah,
this performance come from?
yeah,
And then someone else came in and like separated the two. It was like, what is going on? And it was
yeah,
like such a good thing, and I
yeah,
didn't even know. I think I knew one thrower,
yeah,
and I was like, oh my god, like this. If you were following this is so good,
yeah,
and that happened.
yeah,
But unfortunately, because I guess field events are longer,
mm.
um, I don't know. They just don't get the time that they deserve or need for there to be a little bit more of a following.
Yeah, I've noticed even when they're streaming athletics live, at an event, generally, even when the throws or whatever are going on or stuff happening in the field, they will cut to that. They'll show
Yeah,
highlights in between the track events, won't they? It's almost
yeah,
like they don't.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Well, even Eurosport used to do, and I think they still do the split screen, which at least you can still see what's going on here.
yeah,
Why we have to completely cut field altogether and then go to the lineup or go to the walkout of the track athletes?
yeah,
It's like we don't need that.
yeah,
Like keep it the split screen so the field eventers can still watch the field events.
yeah,
Just something,
yeah,
something that continues with
yeah,
that we exist.
yeah. But I think what you said about, if people had backgrounds to each of the people, I mean, it would make a huge difference. I always remember, the Glasgow games, the
Yeah,
2014.
yeah.
What guy was his name? Yigo or something like that? The guy who he
The
threw like
javelin guy.
the javelin guy because he learnt on
Yeah,
YouTube, didn't he? He watched
yeah,
YouTube videos, he
yeah,
taught himself. I was just like, I was blown away when I heard that.
yeah.
And like my knowledge of javelin and all that is absolutely zero. But even just me as a casual viewer, that caught my attention straight away. So
Yes, yeah,
I'm sure the backstories are out there, and
yeah,
even when they cast for TV shows, contenders for Gladiators or Ninja Warrior,
yeah, yeah.
they want background stories because then it
And
helps market the
I
product.
would actually say field athletes
Hmm.
arguably have more background story
Yeah,
than track athletes because most of us are still working.
yeah,
We've got normal lives that we
yeah,
do alongside elite
mm,
level track and field. Most track athletes, because they can afford to be, are just full-time athletes.
yeah,
So it's a little bit more straightforward. Yes, of course, they go over injuries and what other trials and tribulations,
yeah,
but field athletes are still going to go through that. But we
yeah.
also have to balance,
Well,
more than likely, also have to balance a normal life too.
I was going to ask you how many, because, well, I mean, how many jobs do you do? It seems like, well, you seem to work all the time. I mean,
I do a lot of working.
yeah, yeah,
uh, I mean, yeah, I'm based in a few places. I always have done it that way. I do that because I don't know why I do that actually. It just kind of happened that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm based at like three gyms here,
Right.
kind of four. So I'm based at I've got like my main gym, which was the first job I got out here.
Right.
And then that has like a sister company like 20 minutes away. So I also go to that gym. And then I do a class, a morning of classes starting at 4:30 a.m. So I'm up at 3:10. I do like to go on about that because I'm like, you need to know this is a really long day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my favorite days, despite having to get up at 3:10. And I only
Right.
finished work the day before at 7:30. So it's a not great
Mm.
turnover of
Yeah.
like getting home. So I try and be home for 7:45.
Right.
Because I only live down the road from where that Tuesday shift is, or
Right.
it's not shift, but where the clients are.
Yeah.
And I try and get home for 7:45, and I'm trying to have my dinner around 8. And
Right.
I aim, but it hasn't happened yet. I try and be like showered, ready to
Mm.
be in bed for 8:30. It hasn't happened yet, but
Okay, but
like
that's the
the very
ambition.
latest is like 9:30. I'm
Yeah.
definitely in bed.
My goodness.
And then yeah, I get up at 10 past. I got two alarms. 10:03 is the first alarm,
Yeah.
and then 12 minutes past 3 is the second one. So I really need to be up on that second one. Like
So
2 minutes later, I need to get up.
you're the same as me. I have it's like even this morning because obviously we're in what there's 10 hours between us. I set two alarms. I think it's
Yeah.
like you're gonna hate me for saying this. It was like 7:15 and 7:20 or something.
Oh,
Like, you're gonna. I'm so
mm,
sorry. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
hard that must be.
I know the
Yeah,
struggle. Honestly, Jade, the struggle was horrendous. I mean,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure.
it was.
I'm on my third class at that time on a
Wow.
Wednesday. Third class.
Yeah, but
But yeah, so I jog out a lot of stuff, but I also think that's it could be good and bad. Obviously, like the attention of trying to do one thing, especially
hmm,
like when I moved country. So I'd achieved whatever I'd achieved in the UK, which was okay. Like I ticked all the boxes.
yeah,
Like British number one, I was the English record holder. I did want to be the British record holder, which was my plan this year
yeah,
because I don't want to keep correcting people when they're like British record holder, and I'm like, oh, I'm the
yeah,
English record holder. I would like
right,
to be the British
yeah,
record
yeah,
holder, but I'm not quite there.
yeah,
So yeah, I always wanted that. That was a big drive, and I felt like I was worthy of being the British record
yeah.
holder. But that hasn't happened, and that's okay. So English record holder, British champion a number of times,
Was it
nine
9 times or
times.
something? Oh, yeah,
Yeah, nine. Again, this year wanted that to be number 10 because I
yeah.
knew that this was likely to be my final one, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
I was just thinking the weather was terrible. That I know that could be.
Weather was terrible, but obviously it was terrible for everyone. I was the one that massively underperformed. That was all me.
Yeah,
I know why I underperformed.
right.
But yeah, like of all the people that day, I by far, hands down, performed the
Yeah,
worst. Like
yeah.
I had a 63 seasons best,
That's
63 meter seasons best, and I
yeah.
think on the day I don't even know what I threw, 52 or something. It was a
Right. Okay. Yeah.
shocker. And I
Yeah.
know why. I know why.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I've been to a World, been to Commonwealth, got a medal at Commonwealth, got two medals at Commonwealth.
Hmm.
I've been to an Olympic. So I kind of ticked all the things I at least wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
Definitely had a few unfinished business, especially with the Olympics, and that
Yeah.
is like the biggest driving force I have. Um, Obviously, like it's quite well publicized, and I moan about it quite a lot. Not being selected for the London Olympics,
Yeah.
despite being qualified at that point. So that was a kick, and I felt like I shoulda, woulda, coulda gone to that one.
Yeah.
At least I got it right for 2016, 4 years later, and I
Yeah.
went to that one. But it's always bothered me not being a double Olympian. I've always wanted to
Right.
be a
Yeah.
double
Yeah.
Olympian. And I felt like I'd earned that right. That wasn't like a luck. I felt like I definitely
Yeah.
earned that, and that was taken away from me. So that's that. And then obviously this year, knowing that I was 5 centimeters short of the additional standard that British Athletics had set, I knew there was like next to no chance of me going.
Yeah.
I knew I'd be invited,
Right.
and I knew British Athletics were going to say no. So I mean, if they can deny me 8 years before that,
Yeah.
and or 10, whatever whatever it is that 8 years,
2012.
whatever it is,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Long time. Yeah. Oh, 12.
12 years.
It's 12.
12,
Oh,
12. Yeah, we've got
wow.
that Toto.
Yeah.
So yeah, 12 years before that, having
Mm.
been the only person qualified, the only person that could possibly have gone and
Yeah.
them denying me then, for me, missing this standard by 5 centimeters, even though the standard was bit of a random standards, even
Yeah.
if we just compare the men's and the women's discus. Mine was top 25 in the world, my standard, something like that. And the men's was like top 40 in the world.
Right.
And that was just like, apparently that was fair. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Eh,
another day for that one.
exactly.
But
That
just like
that could be a separate subject.
I knew that I was going to be denied. So and I was like, do I appeal? I appealed the London one.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go. I've appealed World. Like it never goes in your favor.
Yeah.
And as we know, like there were people in. I think I was the closest person, especially field athlete, to qualify, but didn't go. But in
Right.
terms of rankings, we had the two hammer throwers, which was Jake Norris and Anna Purchase. Anna had even been to the World Champs the year before and got into
Right.
the final, but had missed this standard because it was so crazy high.
Yeah.
And they still denied her. And she was being funded, like I was being funded for 2012.
Yeah.
So yes, she'd missed this standard, but the
Yeah.
standard was stupid in the first place. You just shouldn't have had
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, it's like I don't think Anna's going to go, and if anyone's going to go, it's going to be Anna.
Right.
And then yeah, Anna put in her appeal request and was still denied. So those things, I feel like I should be a three-time Olympian, and I've
Yeah.
been to one.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of keeps the fire burning. I just feel like
Yeah.
the powers that be have just taken away some opportunities. I know effectively it always comes down to me. I'm my own person. I've got no team to blame. It is on me.
Yeah.
But when the standards are just unfairly high,
Yeah.
you could be. There was a lot of stats that were being thrown about, especially around the Paris Games, and it was just like some of the runners were, I don't know, like 100th in the world, and they were being selected either relay or backup relay or individual or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that, and we're not. I'm certainly not saying those people didn't deserve to go,
No.
but it's like it's unfair that people that are ranked, if you're just purely talking about stats, how can
Yeah.
you be ranked there? And then you've got these lot which are ranked over here that
Yeah.
can't go. And then
Yeah.
when that statement was brought out, I can't even remember the guy's name. I won't swear, but I had
Okay.
some names for him.
Yeah.
And he said basically the six people that missed out were not worthy of public funding because they were not inspirational enough. Quote.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't argue with stupid. It's just
No.
like
No. It's true. Yeah.
okay,
It.
sure.
It
You don't
sometimes.
think we're inspirational enough.
Yeah.
We've done what we've done.
Yeah.
We're juggling what we're juggling, and we're not inspirational enough to warrant public funding. No problem.
Just,
Okay, you just have to accept it.
do you know, it just feels like sometimes you get some people that are just in their jobs, they're so out of touch with reality or they don't know how to read the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we see it in all different, all different walks of life. But
Well, that guy, I think he'd just come from a job in mental health.
what?
So he'd
And then he says
come
stuff
from
like that.
mental health and then went into whatever his official role is at British Athletics
Right.
and said that to the press
Yeah.
about us.
I don't-
So it's just like,
what- mm. Is that
what do
why
you
he's not
say?
working?
That's like you can't argue with stupid. It's just like,
Is
what do
that
you
why
say?
he's not? Is that why he's not working in mental health anymore? Because he was
Maybe 'cause
saying
he's
stuff like
really
that.
bad at his job.
I was just
Probably,
thinking that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
You're
isn't
not good
there
at
an
your job, mate.
expression?
There's no two ways about that.
It sounds like he's failing upwards somehow. He was rubbish at
Yeah,
that job, so he
yeah.
gets moved.
Lucky him.
I know. Yeah.
Lucky him.
It's in Hollywood a few times as well. Someone does terribly on something, and they
Yeah,
somehow
yeah,
get promoted. It's like, how?
yeah.
Okay, so out of interest, so with the Olympics, how you should have gone, in London. You got to Rio. How did it? I mean, what's the old thing? Expectation versus reality. How was the experience for you of actually getting there compared to what
Well,
you
that's
anticipating? But
that's an interesting one. Again, this is where this burning fire still is.
right,
So Rio was not what I was expecting
right,
because obviously, like when you're working towards something like an Olympics, you've got an idea of how this is going to be. Like you don't know how amazing it's going to be, but
mm,
you're pinning it up there as one of the greatest
yeah,
things that are ever going to happen in your life.
yeah,
And whilst I'm very pleased and very proud of the way I handled 2012 and 4 years later became an automatic selected person
Yeah.
for Rio. I was really proud of that whole journey, and it wasn't just me. Obviously, it was my tiny team of like my coach, my friends, my training partners.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the governing body
Yeah.
because they're useless.
Yeah.
So it was like all of that. I mean, the only thing I can praise them on is they give you a kick because it's like I'm going to do this with or without your help.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I could possibly praise them on.
Mm.
Um, but like, yeah, you have this big expectation of what you think it's going to be like.
Mm.
And unfortunately, um, definitely the rain is my kryptonite. It has
Right.
been probably forever.
Yeah.
And I was in a really good place mentally, physically, technically. I was so excited. It was by far my best year, 2016. I'd qualified really early on, as in I'd hit the distances, and I
Yeah.
didn't automatically qualify until the British Champs. But I was very confident I will finish top two, and I will automatically book my place on that team. So
Right.
the whole year was good. I'd gone to all the Diamond Leagues. I'd done really well.
Yeah.
Um, got to the championships automatically. The kitting out experience was really amazing. I've been to kitting out before for the Commonwealth Games, but doing it for Team GB is definitely next level. Like I
Right.
cannot explain for you, but it's next level.
Right.
That was way beyond my expectations because I
Yeah.
didn't have any expectations for that.
Yeah.
Um, so that was surreal. And then the holding camp was quite surreal. Just with what it was, but obviously there being like a much bigger team than normal and like support people, like just staff and people, like the athletes I was used to, but just the
Mm.
staff that go into Team GB is again next level.
Yeah.
I was performing really well in training. We'd got the automatic standards out, and it was like maybe 62 or something. And I was hitting that regularly. I was like, oh my god, I'm
Yeah.
going to come to this Olympics after London, and I'm going to get myself into the final. It is going to be so good. And it wasn't really an arrogance; it was just a confidence. I was just in a really confident place.
Yeah.
And the qualifying day came around. Sophie Hitchen, the hammer thrower, she had got into the final, and her final was in the morning, and my qualifying was in the evening, which is very unusual. Usually it'd be the other way around. You'd have
It's
qualifying in the morning,
associate finals in the evening, don't you? Normally.
always, yeah. But it just happened to be the other way.
Yeah.
And I never at any point checked the weather because I
Right.
was just like, everything's nice and sunny in Brazil.
Yeah.
The whole time I've been here, it's been
Yeah.
sunny, sunny, sunny.
Yeah.
Got into the village. The village was interesting. It was really nice to look at, but like we had issues with plumbing.
Right.
We had issues with like some of the building wasn't finished.
Oh,
It
okay.
was like there was really nice swimming pools, but everyone was like, "Do not get in the pool. There is
Yeah.
many, many germs. Don't get in the pools."
Right.
And no one
Okay.
got in any of these
Yeah.
pools.
Yeah.
And like there was a few warnings. There was like a like daily meetings of like crime. It was just like, the cleaners are stealing stuff,
Yeah.
so don't let them into the building. And
Yeah.
then it was like lock the cupboard. If you don't want it nicked, you have to lock it in the cupboard, lock that, lock your bedroom door, lock that, and then
Yeah.
lock your apartment. And
Yeah.
then they won't be allowed in the building either. So there was like daily things like that brought a little bit of a on it. It was just like,
Yeah.
why is it here? And then it was like out on the street because athletics was after swimming,
Yeah.
and whatever else comes before that, like rugby sevens and all those kind of things. Like there were people being mugged, just because
Yeah.
obviously the influx in tourists, and it was like
Yeah.
constant reminders of like, not everyone's as lucky as we are, and we're walking around with our flash stuff and our Samsung things, and there was a lot of. Do you remember a lot of stuff about that?
You know what? You're reminding me of something because when we went to Argentina, obviously not for athletics for me, it was slightly less credible, but we were warned about if you're out in public in Argentina, obviously this is the whole wipeout thing. We were said, be careful, don't show any wealth or any, if
Yeah,
very careful with cameras or anything like that. People,
yes,
we literally, because we were walking in a group, wandering around, we noticed a couple of people had clocked us. And we thought,
yeah,
right, better put the cameras away, or else they're going to
yeah.
just like, drive by and just sort of swipe something from
Well,
you.
my dad was out, and he had his camcorder because he was kind of like old man style like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And he said some child, like a 10-year-old, maybe younger child, was trying to take it, and he was just
Yeah,
like, "No, you're not
yeah,
taking my thing,
yeah,
obviously."
yeah,
So there was constant reminders of that from Team GB,
yeah,
and that was a bit like, okay, I mean, it
yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah.
And then the day of my qualifying came, and Sophie had won her bronze medal in the morning, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. We're gonna have a first time person with a medal, throwing medal. I'm confident I'm gonna have a really good shot. Even like hadn't put it like in firm writing, of course, that I was gonna get into the final, but I was really confident that
Yeah.
I knew how to throw 62 meters or 60
Yeah.
whatever it was, and I know how to do that, and I can replicate that, and I believe I'm gonna do that. When I was leaving the building to go to the stadium, it's obviously quite a lengthy process. Like you do it hours before.
Right.
I could see and we were in one of the tall towers, and I could see like really dark clouds coming over, and I was like, "Huh, we haven't seen that since being in Brazil." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sure it's fine. Not a single person has told me about it's due to
Yeah.
rain or anything like that."
Yeah.
So I don't even think I checked. I just figured. I didn't want it in my head. I didn't want to play mind games with
Yeah.
myself. And I just figured, even if it rains, I'm in a really good groove. So I just didn't want any confirmation of
Yeah.
like searching weather and see what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And then like on the way there, it did start raining, and then it got like really bad. And I was just like, all right, well, we're dealing with a wet surface now, and that's fine
Yeah.
because I'm in a good groove and I know what to do. Even though I hadn't practiced in the rain, but I just
Okay.
figured I've just got good feeling right now. I
Yeah.
know how to do it. And I'd done some drills in my warm up, and I was like, I'm not happy with the surface. Like the surface I found slippery.
Mm.
And I think a few other people did find it slippery as well. But of course, at that point, you've got game face. Like you don't want other people to know that you are now struggling and
Yeah.
you're about to try and qualify.
Yeah.
And I was in the second group, so I was in Group B. And we were then, I think, under the stairs waiting and still going through whatever bits we were going through. But there was TVs. And
Mm.
then it was like play was suspended. I think like the pole vault had stopped. There was a lot of things that had
Okay.
stopped because the
Right.
weather got so bad.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I mean, unusual, but it's obviously quite bad out there. But I mean, it's wet. It
Yeah.
is clearly wet. So the circle surely isn't going to be that bad. And I could see the results of what people were throwing. And I was like, this is it must not be good out there because the results aren't what I thought they would be. Like I can
Right.
see people struggling.
Yeah.
But most of them, slash all of them, were finding like you only get 3 attempts in your qualifying, and they did find one. Everyone found one. Everyone that
Okay.
should have found one
Yeah.
found one.
Got it.
And then it was our turn to go out there. And I just dumped my stuff down, went straight out into the circle because I needed to know what I was dealing with. And as soon as I did one turn, I was like, oh no. Like I knew this was not going to be good.
Yeah.
This is not a circle that I am going to be able to manage. I knew that immediately. And then I was like, what do I say? What do I say to the coach? And the stadium was empty. It was a point where they couldn't fill the I think they were trying to give the tickets out, but the
Okay.
weather was bad.
Yeah.
Like the stadium was empty. They didn't have the Olympic flame in the stadium. It didn't even feel like the Olympics. It was
Thinking
just
that
dead.
atmosphere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cold, not cold, but it was like it was just pissing down. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
dark, wet,
Yeah.
miserable. And I'd just been on the circle in like my trainers. They were like the slowest things and I'd practiced in them before.
Mm.
And I was like, this is no good. And I said to the coach, who wasn't actually my regular coach, but because I've been training so well with him,
Mm.
I said to my regular coach, I was like, I just want to focus on doing what we've been practicing. And it must have been a kick in the teeth for him. Like we'd got there together,
Yeah.
but because in the final stages, like the fast final 2 weeks before the games itself, he wasn't able to be there. He wasn't allowed in the village. He didn't have a pass or anything like that. So you got whoever you got. But the guy I was with, like we worked fine together. So it was fine. And I basically had to shout to him when he was in the stand,
Mm.
I don't like that circle. I don't know what to do. And
Right.
to even say it out loud, it's just
Yeah.
like, you are now not in a good place.
Yeah.
But and he had not had to deal with that before because the whole time we've been thrown, it'd been going really well. So he was just like, it's fine, it's fine. I was like, it's not fine.
Yeah.
I need plan B, and I don't have plan B. And
Right.
my original coach, who I wish just could come down because I didn't even, I was scanning because there weren't many people in there. I was scanning, looking for him. I couldn't see him. I just wanted him to come down because obviously he'd been my coach for years and years and years. So
Yeah.
he would have had a plan B, but
Yeah.
he just decided that he was going to stay out of it because that's what I'd asked him to do. That was before I
Right.
knew the weather was going to be as bad as it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I was just like, well, I've now got a coach that's telling me to just deal with it, which I know I should be dealing with it, but I don't have a skill set to deal with. I don't know. I'm trying to latch onto something and I've got nothing. And I was like, this, I can't believe that this is going to be my Olympic experience. Like
Yeah.
an empty stadium in the rain, it's just bad. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, the first throw was probably about 53. And I was like, yeah, that's 12 meters below my PB and season's best. Other people were struggling as well, but I'd say by round three, again, everyone that should have found one found one. I was
Yeah.
the only person that should have found one that didn't.
Yeah.
And I know I can't even remember the official result, but I always tell people because I think I looked once and I was like, yeah, I came last. I came like I think I beat one person, and it's
Right.
because they threw into the net three times. That's
Right.
it. That
Okay.
was
Yeah.
my Olympic experience. So I'm
Yeah.
just like 4 years I didn't get to go here, and it was really
Yeah.
good weather. I've made this in London. It was good weather.
Yeah.
Made it in Rio. Been nice the whole time.
Yeah.
I come here, rained absolutely fall to pieces,
Yeah.
and I've got no backup. And then and then yeah, this is it. This is now be done. And then yeah, three throws later, I think I'd thrown
Yeah.
54 something. I was the only one that didn't find a throw, and I was just like, wow,
So,
that's that. That's my Olympic experience
yeah.
done.
So, and that's why you can see because you were so well. Technically, you did qualify for this, which I know we can go into on on another time. But I mean, you effectively you did because you got in. Am I? We'll use this as a lead in for when we do part two. But you
Yeah.
effectively you from the Olympics point of view, you did actually qualify for this year for Paris, didn't you?
Yeah, so
Right.
the whole point of this funneling system is there's two ways. So they've got one very high standard, which
Mm.
is like what the Olympic Committee put out.
Yeah.
For athletics, everyone will have this one standard,
Yeah.
and it's like if you hit this standard, you get to go.
Yeah.
And most countries will also put the secondary thing of if you win the national champs, then you get to go. So
Right.
that's fine. So that's what I've done in Rio.
Right.
Um, then there was like this B standard, which the last time we had a B standard for the Olympics would have been 2012, which is what I got then.
Yeah.
Which that means on paper I had qualified, so I had to be spoken about in the meeting room, and obviously that didn't go in my favour. This time their B standard was so crazy high,
Mm.
I wouldn't have got spoken about. So that's why that never happened.
Right.
The point of the very high standard, the A standard, is because they want half the people, the Olympic Association,
Mm.
International Olympic Association Committee, want the standard to be made or the athletes to be made up of half that automatically outright qualify, and
Yeah.
then the other half that qualify through rankings via going to good level competition. So you're not just, in your local athletics club
Yeah.
throwing world records that don't count because it's
Yeah.
not ratified and stuff. So they've
Right.
tried to do it so you can't just throw one big distance, which is
Yeah.
what, I went to Oklahoma. That's where I got my season's best. The conditions there are unreal. That's where the world record was broken this year. So
Right.
that's what everyone goes towards, one windy, especially discus throwers. They'll go to one windy venue to give themselves the best possible chance of qualifying.
Right.
So everyone that goes there, you now have a very good chance of qualifying. Of
Yeah.
course, it comes along with mind games and everything because, it's brilliant conditions. You should qualify today. And of course, it might not happen. And for most people, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. So I was definitely, I don't think I threw that well, but the
Yeah.
conditions helped me. And then there's been other times when I still threw at the same venue, but the conditions weren't anywhere near as good. And I threw technically better and smoother and everything, and it didn't go as far. So
Yeah.
it's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So anyway, the IOC want the rest of the field to be made up of people that are constantly throwing X distances, which get you X amount of points, going
Right.
to various competitions like diamond leagues or gold level meets or silver level meets, and you get points that way. So you are constantly up there with the best.
Yeah.
If you're not winning, you're up there getting points. So they
You're
want
there or
half of it to be
thereabouts
outright.
type thing.
That's it. You're half of you are outright qualified,
Yeah.
half of you are there because you are there or thereabouts,
Yeah.
and you have every chance of going. So I was in that half.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we can go. I like the idea that we're going to split this into two parts, and I can see why because it was. I mean, that's definitely going to be a separate subject. I've got to ask. So on that's the Olympic side of things. However, your experience with the Commonwealth Games is quite a contrast, as in getting on the podium
Yeah.
twice. If technically, I was there both times that you won medals because I've got a feeling I watched a few events at Glasgow in 2014. I checked
Yes.
this the old thing. I didn't know you at the time, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that the night you won the bronze at Glasgow, I'm pretty sure I was in the stadium that night watching. But again, the announcers just weren't saying much.
Of course. Let me just plug you in because I
That's
feel
okay.
like you might die. There you go. You're plugged
That's
in.
all right.
Yeah. So my again, because it's Great Britain and England do things differently.
Hmm.
England generally have lower standards for Commonwealth Games than World Tour Olympics, and that's understandable. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think because just mentally, because you have a better chance and you've got less pressure on yourself of making a team, you're
Hmm.
able to. Even my first Commonwealth Games in 2010, like I wasn't guaranteed to make the team, but like you've just got a better chance of making it because they're not going to do ridiculous things like, oh, you qualified but you can't go. There would
Yeah.
need to be quite a good reason why you
Yeah.
can't go. So I know for Birmingham there were some unfortunate people that missed out,
Hmm.
but that was purely down to the size of the team. We couldn't take that many, so it was like it's still kind of within your control that if you throw the furthest
Yeah.
and you're consistently beating everyone else, you've got the best chance of
Yeah.
going. And it's easier said than done. Of
Yeah.
course, I could have easily just qualified for the Olympics, and I wouldn't be sitting here moaning about it. But it's not always the way it goes. But yeah, I think for me personally, my experience of the Commonwealth has always been a positive one because it's been way less stressful to make the team.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're able to actually focus on the competition itself rather than kind of wasting energy on a selection meeting that may or may not be spoken about in a positive or negative way. So there's just less wasted energy that you can just
Right.
concentrate on your performance, your training, your recovery, and just repeat it.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, that was a really good. Well, it was a decent year for me. I'm definitely happy with what happened for me that year. I think I was the only person in the field to get as in my competition,
Yeah.
they got a season's best. So I was really pleased about that. I had a very good idea of what was going to medal in terms of distance. So I didn't really think about competitors. I just looked at
Right.
it, and my coach at the time looked at it from just a stat point of view. If you throw this distance, which was I think about 59,
Yeah.
and if you throw 59, you are very, very likely to get a bronze medal. Like
Right.
59 meters had never not medaled in the history of the
Right.
Commonwealth Games.
Got
So it
you.
was like, right, I know what to do. As in, like, I knew that distance was going to be a good distance. And I think I'd opened up, I qualified a bit shakily in 2014, but I did get into the final. And then I think I'd opened up with 57. And I was like, okay, so I've guaranteed myself almost definitely another three throws. So that's definitely going to be top eight.
Yeah.
I've now got five throws to find around 59 plus. That would be
Yeah.
great. And then again, you ease into it because mentally you're not fighting anything
The
and you're not
pressure's
wasting
off,
time.
basically. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you're not wondering about these what ifs. I wasn't worried about rain because it was blue
Yeah.
skies. It was like
Yeah.
tropical temperatures. It was great.
Yeah.
And there was just no wasted energy. That's definitely been like my biggest thing in sport. Like
Yeah.
obviously when you do bad, it's usually because it's just wasted energy
Yeah.
in various places. And then when I think I've thrown maybe 59 in maybe around three or four or something, and I was like, okay, that is almost definitely got me a medal. But you never know. It could be
Yeah.
that this is the first time that 59 doesn't medal. It could
Yeah.
be that
Yeah.
I'm the person with the biggest throw that doesn't medal. This could be the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
And then I think I'd thrown two 59. So I think I threw like a 59-0, so it was a low one, and then
Yeah.
maybe there was a bigger 59, maybe, and I was like, all right, that's a stronger position, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I think in like round five, I threw 60. I want to say it's 60-48, and
Right.
I was like, okay, 60 has never not medaled. Someone they really, and at that point, it would have been like there's eight people now in this, and I
Yeah.
just would have known. I would have had a good feeling of who is likely to now throw further than that, and
Yeah.
it's not that many. It would have been like a couple of people have potential, but
Yeah.
on the basis of what I can see here today, I think I've now got a medal.
Right.
And even if I didn't, because I've got a season's best and it was a six,
Yeah.
I was like, even if I don't medal, a 60-meter throw is now going to be the furthest non-medaling throw. And that's something I can hold my head up.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's got a season's best here today. So I think mentally it was just a completely freeing, brilliant moment.
Yeah. It sounds.
And
Yeah. It sounds like the medal was the bonus, wasn't it? Everything else you were happy with, and
yeah,
yeah.
yes, yes. And that medal, so that's the furthest. They still only got bronze.
Yeah.
Um, And that was the furthest bronze medal I think that's ever been won.
Really? Wow.
So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. No,
In
no.
contrast,
Yeah.
Birmingham,
Right.
my silver medal is
Yeah.
the worst distance that's
Really?
that's ever earned that silver medal. So,
Yeah. I
and I
remember
walked around,
those rounds. You were in the lead for the first few rounds, weren't you? I remember that
yeah,
from where
I
I was
really
at.
didn't
And
perform
then
well
someone,
there.
I forget her name, but then she got ahead of you. And then,
CT from Nigeria.
yeah,
Yeah, so I could see, and she had a really different year to me. So we'd had, as in the UK and England had, or GB. I don't know why I keep calling it the UK. It's because I'm living in Australia. I keep saying the UK. No one says GB. I just always
yeah,
say the UK. We'd had before that the Worlds. So
mm,
the people that were lucky enough to go to Worlds
yeah,
went to Worlds. So I'd gone to Worlds, and that took a lot of energy just mentally.
yeah,
And then the day we flew back
mm,
from Eugene, it was a straight coach from London into Loughborough, where we were for the holding camp. So everyone that went to Worlds that was going to the Conways
yeah,
for especially for England,
yeah.
you were just flown in GB kit,
Mm.
picked up on the coach, and driven straight into the holding camp of Team England.
Oh my
So
goodness.
the
Yeah,
transition for that was rapid. Well, there wasn't.
yeah,
It was just like you're one team, now you're the other team,
yeah.
and then I think there was like days apart where you were back into Team GB for the Europeans.
Right.
So yeah, so the Commonwealth was the only one that I thought I had a good chance of getting into the final in Eugene. It didn't happen. Again, it was my mental ability to deal with the surface. The circle was just faster than I could manage. So I didn't throw bad there, 358.
Okay.
But yeah, I was a little bit I was disappointed in myself for that. And then I knew I was now a favourite coming into Birmingham because there'd
Right.
been a few people that had pulled out. So it
Right.
just left me up the top. And I was like, oh, this is new. I've never been
Yeah.
the favourite for an international before, especially at championships.
Yeah.
Like little internationals I've been favourite for, but not an actual championship. So that was a different place to be
Yeah.
mentally going in. And I knew Cece who was very fresh because I think she got married that year. So
Right.
she missed a lot of like the early season stuff where I've been competing like in Australia since January or February. And
Yes.
then she had started competing way later than that, way later. So I'd done a lot at that point and she was fresh. So although on paper she wasn't that ranked that high,
Mm,
I was like, nah, she's fresh. I knew she was the only one when I was watching. I was like, this person,
mm.
she looks fresh. She looks ready to go. She just looks like she hasn't nailed one yet, but she's going to.
Yeah.
And although I was in the lead, I knew that lead wasn't a good lead. If I'd thrown well early on, I
Yeah.
think that potentially could have squashed it.
Yeah.
But I knew I left the door open, and couldn't shut it, could not
Yeah.
shut that door.
Yeah.
And she did, and she came close to go because she did go ahead in distance, but she fouled it. And I was like, that is my one warning.
Remember that. I
Yeah,
remember that bit.
it
Yeah.
was over 60, but
Yeah.
she'd foot fouled. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is your one warning. You
Yeah.
don't always get them, but this is your one
Yeah.
warning. And I tried, and maybe I just over tried, but I messed up as well. And I was like,
Right.
okay, well, I got an opportunity. I
Yeah.
didn't take it. And then she went ahead on the next one.
I
And I
was
was
just
like,
thinking that it was
we've
the
got to
next
step up
one, wasn't
now.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember on the
And
side of the stadium I was in, there was a big screen directly behind me, so I had to keep turning around to see
yes,
your
yeah,
name was number one, and then when the throw
dropped.
counted, it dropped
Yeah,
to two.
yeah. And I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that was gonna happen, especially that really big that there was a throw that was probably just as big before that and she'd
Yeah.
foot fouled and I was just like if I'd gone big at that point, if I'd
Yeah.
responded to that, I don't think she would have come back because just mentally it's hard because it had been like, oh, is that my one
Pressure.
opportunity that I've just now messed up? Exactly. So
Yeah.
it could have been a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I was in the driving seat at that point. I had
Yeah.
my chance and yeah, I just didn't do it. So um, yeah, I think that was my most frustrating bit that I just don't feel like I responded the way I should have. I
Yeah.
don't think I threw as well as I could have.
Yeah.
Even though on the last throw, my last one was my best one, it just wasn't very good. It was another 58. I think in all championships, actually, the Worlds I've thrown 58. It was a bigger 58, but it was still 58. Commonwealth Games I threw 58.
Yeah.
And I think the Europeans I threw 58.
Right.
So none of those are great distances. They're all right, but then they're just not championships distances. And I just had way higher expectations and hopes than that.
Yeah.
So to be the owner of a bronze of a silver medal is obviously an upgrade from a bronze, but
Exactly, yeah.
my bronze was the best ever
One that
bronze
meant the
medal.
most to you, effectively. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And all that, like it was the best ever bronze medal. It's like
yeah,
that distance to be in that competition, you like it was the highest that it could have possibly been.
yeah,
Whereas I think her gold was also one of the worst distances for years. No, maybe not ever, but
yeah,
like for years that had. Or maybe not that. Maybe I'm doing her a disservice there, but I don't think it definitely wasn't one of the better ones
yeah.
that had won it. Mine, I think, was outright the worst silver medal.
Right.
And then I had a couple of friends that knew that they should have stepped up for the bronze, and they also missed that. So I think bronze and silver were the worst distances that have ever won those medals.
Right.
Gold wasn't as bad as our medals.
Yeah.
So although I'm obviously still happy, like it could have been
Yeah.
worse. I could have still thrown a 58 and come away fourth. That would have been much worse.
I'll tell you what I do
Um,
remember about Birmingham was, and I know there's a shot of you with it in the backdrop. The sunset that evening was amazing.
yes,
That
I
shot of you in the
know.
ped, that and with the sun,
Yeah.
the side of the arena I was at, I could see it, but it was behind me because I was at the other end from where you
Oh,
were going.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
But then, Carl,
yeah,
the official photos, that was just
yes,
that has to
yeah.
be one of the best
So
pictures.
I still need to print off those better pictures because I've got one,
Yeah,
but I could have. I need to like actually spend some money on that and like
yeah,
go to Getty or something and
that's it.
actually
Yeah,
get those pictures because
yeah,
they're so good. And it's just like, oh,
yeah,
that's especially because of the timing that as well. I'm in the circle like with brilliant, not
yeah.
brilliant conditions, but like it just clearly looks like I am mid throw and
That's
everything's
what's
all long and
yeah.
raging. You've got this
Mm,
massive stadium. It's full. The
yeah,
sunset, like it's such a good picture.
yeah. No, no, that was for me. When I mean, I remember the sunset was good that night, but when I saw, I don't know if you maybe you posted it on Insta or something. I can't remember. I saw that and I thought
Maybe.
that is an amazing shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think because Chris happened to be behind the circle and he was up high or he
that's
was
right. Yeah,
relatively high and he could
yeah,
just walk up the top. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah, he took some great pictures too.
yeah. I'll have to check with him
Yeah.
because yeah, with all of this, if I can find the shot of that, that will be overlaid into what
He
we're saying.
definitely has emailed me that and I've printed it off, but I like the cropping was weird. So
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
need to do a better job there. But yeah,
yeah.
he definitely has
Yeah.
some pictures,
That's
100%.
the thing. Where possible, as we've talked about the Olympics, if I can find either footage or photos, I'll be adding that
Yeah, yeah.
into the edit with this. Very quickly
Like
because I
me in
know you're.
trainers for Rio.
What's that?
Stupid trainer. Like me in the trainers. I'm in like AstroTurf football shoes in Rio in the
Right.
rain.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
The
But
shame of it.
actually, very quickly because I know you're short of time, and for anyone sort of wondering, we're going to do a part two where you can go more in depth about the whole
Just moan.
the wonderful
If
British
you're in for the
athletics.
moan, yeah, I'm
But
here.
the thing is, it's not just you. So many people were affected this, for the Paris Olympics, weren't they? There
Yeah,
was loads impact because I remember quite a few articles were popping up, and you were featured. I'm forgetting everyone's names. Is it Phil Norman was another?
yeah, the runner. So I
Because
think, yeah, he was like point something off in like the 1500 or something ridiculous.
he was like a tenth outside, one and a half
Yeah,
tenths
so
outside
something crazy. Again,
the.
it's just not, that's not a,
I know.
like, if you were way off, it's like fair enough. Or
Yeah,
if you didn't want to accept people just on rankings, fair
exactly.
enough.
Yeah,
But you're just denying people because you can.
I know.
And
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
problem. That
Yeah.
is the issue.
So that's why this is why I think it was a great idea that we separate this into two parts. And do you know what? Of all the people I've spoken to, I've never done a two-parter before, so this is new.
Oh, here we go.
I like this. I like this. So for anyone who's waiting, yes, there is a sequel coming, and it will be coming next very shortly. I have
Yeah.
to ask you. So you've done what, three Commonwealth Games, and
Four?
oh, four. Sorry, I'm losing track.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
Okay, suddenly they've had to switch locations for the 26th and we're back in Glasgow again. Would
Yeah.
although technically you were going to retire this year, I mean, is that in the back of your mind potentially in a couple of years? Because
Yes.
yeah,
In short, yes.
yeah,
So I won't be, so I have like, I've officially retired because, it's gone on Instagram now. So
yeah,
that must
that's right.
be, that
Well,
must mean
it's
everything.
official then, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's official. I've put it on there.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I was always going to have a nothing year next year.
right.
But basically, because I feel had I gone to the Olympics this year, I think I would have officially retired, and that would have been that.
Yeah.
But even though I have officially retired, in the back of my mind, and it might just be me trying to process everything. It might
Mm.
just be that I have retired,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, not
Yeah.
accepting it yet.
Right.
But it also might be that maybe I will come back. But if I come back for
Mm.
Glasgow, it won't be for Team England. It will be for Australia.
But yeah.
Um, and that will be on the basis that I'm at a level where I feel is good enough to
Yeah.
even try and come back. And that will be if the citizenship and all whatever else that
Yeah.
comes into play is done.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: if you do end up representing Australia, I can guarantee you, because Glasgow, I will try and watch a couple of events. I'll see if I can put on an Aussie top or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Appreciate that.
I'll
Thanks.
be cheering, I'll be cheering for Australia. But
Yeah,
yeah, I thought I had to ask you quickly on that. I mean, I know that we're pressed for time, so I don't want to keep you too long. Something that we didn't touch on, and maybe we can tack it on at the end of part two, was the sport that you've ventured into a little bit, my sport, the indoor rowing, which
honestly,
yeah,
you lot are built different. You lot are built different.
yeah. Well,
It
yeah, go on.
It is such a hard sport. Like it's genuinely given me
Mm.
some sort of PTSD. Like the suffering that I have experienced,
Yeah.
I can't even explain to you. Like I have officially done 3 races in my life.
Mm.
On the bloody rowers.
Yeah.
I did that first one, and this is all Chris's fault. I
Yeah.
mean, he's
It's Chris
he's
Scott
also
now, just
the
so we
root.
know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Scott is the root of my success and also the root of my PTSD because his advice to me for my first ever real life race, like
Yeah,
never even been to anywhere where these things
yeah,
are. So I made my sister-in-law come and like we were like, oh God, there's like boats on the wall and like
yeah,
this is real stuff,
yeah,
real rowing, not just
yeah,
gym.
yeah,
And then like we went there and we're seeing all these people in their onesies, and it's just like, wow, this
yeah,
is full on. Like
yeah,
I was just in shorts and t-shirt. I don't know
yeah,
what I'm supposed to wear.
yeah,
And whatever the process was. And then I can see people doing like very warm me uppy things,
yeah,
and I can see like the drag is all the way down to like threes and fours, and I'm like, is it meant to be on 10? So I'd
yeah,
like
yeah.
whack it on to
I
10
was the
because that's
same.
what
I
gym
used to row
bros
on
do.
10. Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
that's what gym bros do. And
yeah,
it's like, well, I'm
exactly. Yeah,
strong, so I'm going to do it on
yeah,
10.
yeah,
Yeah, so and then Chris was like, do not row on 10,
yeah,
row on 8 at the absolute top. I was like,
yeah,
all right, I can do 8, no problem. That's easier.
yeah,
And then when I was asking my sister, I was like, am I supposed to warm up? She was like, I don't know. And I'm
yeah,
like, well, what do I do? Do I do this to fit in or what? So I did. And like all the rowers, like they're just very professional. Like I felt like they were professional. I
yeah,
felt like they were really in the zone. They knew what they were
yeah,
doing. And then there was me.
yeah,
And I was just like, oh man. And I just did a few pulls and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't even know how to warm up for the
yeah,
rower. I just jump on the rower.
yeah.
And then,
Well,
yeah, go on.
oh yeah, yeah. Because the first time I heard of you, Chris, I think you'd done 100-meter test in your gym or
Oh,
whatever.
well, I can do that. Yeah, that one that
Yeah,
didn't give me the PTSD. That's
yeah.
okay. That
Yes,
one.
the 500 is brutal. That's painful. Well, I think what happened, Chris either tagged me in a post or he shared the footage of you and shared it over to me. And I saw the
Yeah,
splits you were pulling, and I just said, I have never seen a woman hitting those splits. Even the fastest, most powerful Team GB rowers were. I've seen them in relays. They could not get anywhere near the power output you were putting in.
yeah,
I was just like, this is unique. This is very unique.
yeah.
So
I should do a few hundreds again. I mean, because they're okay. They I can handle. I haven't done that since for ages and ages and ages.
yeah,
But yeah, that race, like, because there
mm,
was like this little waiting bit
yeah,
section,
yeah,
and they were talking. Like, I was just sat in the middle, like, I don't know. So
yeah,
I'm just like, and I'm nervous because I've never done a race
yeah.
before. And then these two rower people are
Mm.
discussing something. I can't even understand the language. This
Yeah.
is like it's such
Oh,
technical chat.
yeah.
I don't even understand what they're talking about. And then I did understand that they were talking about the drag, and I was
Yeah.
like, "What are you going to do it on?" But I just made conversation at this point,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, probably 4 or whatever they said," and I was
Yeah.
like, "All right." So my friend told me to do it on 8, and they were like, 8, and like now
Yeah.
everyone looked at me on this line. And I was like, oh, well, that's what he told me. And he
Yeah.
said to go out hard and hold on.
Yeah.
That was his quote. Go
Oh,
out hard and hold on. That's what's done it. That's
oh,
what's done it.
that's
So
nasty.
yeah, and
The
then when they were like,
Latin you
no,
would have
don't do it
hit
on
towards
eight,
the
but
end.
people like these, however many people were in
Yeah.
this race, I don't even remember, but
Yeah.
everyone was like, don't do it on eight, don't do it
Yeah.
on eight. And then it was our turn. So that
Yeah.
was my last moment of
Right.
talking to people before
Right.
my first race. And then when I'm on it, people are adjusting their things. And I'm like, well, now what? Am I not doing it on eight?
Yeah.
Because they've all just had an absolute
Yeah.
just fit of knowing that I'm doing it on eight.
Yeah.
And then I gave it a few pulls and I'm like, I have to do it on eight. None of this, because I think it was on 3 or 4 when I jumped on this rower. I
Yeah.
was like, I have to do it on eight. I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to do it on eight.
Yeah.
And of course, when the little gun thing goes off,
Yeah.
whatever it is that goes off, I went out hard
Yeah.
because that's what he told me to do.
Yeah.
And I died. I died a horrible, horrible death. It
Yeah.
was one of the worst experiences I have ever enjoyed. I have given birth,
Yeah.
and I would rather do that
Oh
than go
my
through the
goodness.
horrors
Yeah.
that I experienced
Yeah.
in that race. Because obviously,
Yeah.
I went out hard. I went
Yeah.
out as if that was 100 meters, and
Oh
I had 400
no.
to go. Because
Yeah.
that's what he told me to do. He said, go out hard and hold on. So I don't
Ouch.
even know. Someone did. So my sister-in-law did film the screen. I mean,
Yeah.
she was kind of cheering, so you can't fully really see it.
Yeah.
I don't know what my splits were early
Yeah.
on. I think it finished on like 148 or something,
Right.
maybe at the
Yeah.
very end. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I died, and
Mm.
when the race was over, so obviously I had a little bit more time before the last person in that race had finished,
Yeah.
and I sat there. And she was like, "Well done, you won it, you won
Yeah.
it. That's really good." And I was like, "I can't see." She was like, "Right, you've got to stand up. The next lot are coming in." I was like, "I can't see," and I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Like I knew my
Yeah.
eyes were open,
Yeah.
but I couldn't see
Yeah.
anything. Then my hearing started to fade, and I was like, "I
Right.
can't see you." And then she was like, "Get up," and I was like, I can't." And then obviously still dying, like lung wise dying.
Yeah. I know.
And then
Yeah.
she had to like hook me up.
Yeah.
And like I'm staggering off. I knew there was an old couple outside.
Mm.
They looked at me and said, "Do you need us to get up?" And
Yeah.
then before I could even answer, I was on the floor at their feet.
Yeah.
I stayed there. That the St. John ambulance person had to
Yeah.
come over. Like
Yeah.
I died.
Yeah.
I died for
Yeah.
such a long time.
Oh yeah.
Like people were like, "Oh yeah, that was a really hard race," and I was like, like I couldn't even. I didn't wear a watch or anything like that,
Yeah.
so I don't know what my heart rate went to, but
Yeah.
I don't know
Really
how
high.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible, and we had to stay there for hours after because I just wasn't
Yeah.
able to drive. I wasn't able to do anything. So that was
Yeah.
my first experience.
Yeah.
The second one, I was like, Chris, I can never do that again. That's me one and done. And he was
Yeah.
like, no, you're going to qualify for the world. You have to do it. You have to do one more.
Yeah.
And then the British champs had a 1 minute time trial, and that was obviously I'm here, so we
Yeah.
just
So
did
that was
that
virtual. That's
virtually.
not online. Yeah.
And he was like, it's nowhere near as bad. You can go out hard and hold
Yeah.
on. I was like, nah, I didn't trust that information
Yeah.
anymore. The go out hard and hold on, I didn't
Yeah.
like anymore. So that one I did try and pace a little bit
Yeah.
better. Obviously, still died,
Yeah.
but did feel like I had. I don't know if I'd gone out with the naivety of gone out hard and held on. I think I could have got whatever it was I was trying to hit at the time. I know I missed it. I think I was trying to go for the world record, which I think
Okay.
was 3:57.
Okay.
And I didn't get that.
Yeah.
But had I gone with the naivety of go out hard and hold on, I think I possibly could have, because
Yeah.
obviously I went out so hard.
Yeah.
And then when the world champs came around again, I mean, I hadn't done much training for it because I can't put myself
Yeah.
in that suffering zone.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I wanted to get a medal, because I knew that 128.7 or 128.6, I think I rode,
Yeah.
was good enough to medal. I think when I'd looked at past things, and then Chris again was talking to me about the history, and it's just like, yeah,
So, yeah. That
I'll
would.
give it a go. But yeah, and I think I'd finished that one hundredth of a second slower.
Right.
But I did not go out hard and hold on that time. I definitely tried to pace myself a lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
It still felt bad, but like my vision didn't fail me at that, and
That's good.
my hearing was still
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So it was better. But I've not done a race since.
Now, I'll give you some stories of what some people have been like after a race. A very quick summary, because I know we're running over time. years ago at the European Champs, three guys, they were doing the 2000-meter race and they were doing the podium immediately afterward. The one guy who came third literally couldn't walk. So the two other guys grabbed his legs, dragged him across the floor. And the guy who got the bronze medal had to go on the top step because he couldn't stand. So the other two were holding him up.
See?
You see?
Like, just
Yeah.
honestly, to keep putting yourself there, I can't. I
Yeah.
cannot do it. I can't.
Oh, in training, I don't push myself that hard all the time in training. It's only every now and then if I really have to, do I go there. It's
I no, no, you cannot convince me that I just can't. I think
will.
if I thought I had a genuine chance of making an Olympic team
Yeah.
in rowing,
Yeah.
with indoor rowing, not real rowing,
Yeah.
and like I don't even know, is that offensive to call it not real rowing? I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no, no, no. It's fine. It's fine. Don't
Like
worry. It's
water
okay.
rowing.
Yeah.
This is how much of a novice I am. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't think, and I want to go to another Olympics, and it would be great to go to a different event.
Yeah.
But I just can't. I cannot. Like you lot are built so different. I cannot. Just massive
You know
respect to
what?
you lot.
I
I
will
can't.
something I will have to show you. There is one of the guys in our rowing team, Rob Smith. I still maintain, even he used to hold world records. I mean, he's in his early 50s now, but tactically, he is, I think, the best person at 500-meter at sprint racing.
Really.
Yeah, and he does it. And I followed his advice one year, and it was the least painful 500, and that's when I got silver at the British in 2015.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
in fact, okay, the person I lost to, have you heard in javelin? Did you ever hear of a guy called Mark Robertson at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was his first ever race. Didn't know what he was doing. I was potentially going into
Goodness.
that knowing that I could medal, and he beat me by half a second. So he got the gold.
Oh.
I got silver.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he was my
He's
nemesis.
really into it now, isn't he? If
He
that
is
was his
heavily.
first race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he got a lot
He
quicker.
wasn't scarred like I was scarred.
Yeah, yeah. He was again. He didn't go out too hard on it because he did his first race was 1:20.7. He didn't go out too hard because I was leading in the first half, and I mostly even paced my race. So he was going
Wow.
quite steady, and he just found he was able to hold on much better. I saw a
Yeah.
little fade at the end, but nothing much. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll talk to you another time about Rob Smith because the way he paces his races are incredible. And you basically
Okay.
don't really hit any lactic acid at the end.
Oh,
Virtually no.
I want that.
Yeah,
I want
actually,
that.
I know.
Yeah, lactic terrible.
Yeah, because the way he would do it, I'll sum up very quickly. He advised me. He said the first 5 or 6 strokes, go out as hard as you can, really fast
Can do
start,
that.
then
That's my
spend
zone. I can do that bit.
yeah, that bit, and then you spend the next 5 to 6 strokes just gradually easing down to your cruising pace, as it were, or your
I
sprinting.
don't have that. I have no
Yeah.
idea what that
Okay,
is.
so you basically just sort of slow down. So okay, let's say you were hitting 128s, right? That was your target. Let's say
Oh, yeah,
120. Big splits out of the blocks, knowing you'd probably get down under 120, 118, whatever like that. Then you'll settle
yeah,
down to like about a 127, 128, and you basically
yeah,
then sit on a pace that you can more or less sit on right to the very end. Because if you went a little bit faster, you would hit lactic and then your times would mushroom. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
No
that's
lactic. Avoid the lactic.
yeah. Well, with
Yeah,
me, that year where I just missed out to Mark, I only started to feel lactic in the last 35 meters of a 500. Now,
that's all right. You can deal with it at that
yeah,
point
it
because
was
you're like, well, a few more strokes and it's
four
all done.
strokes. Yeah, that's the thing. It was four.
Yeah,
The last 4 strokes I started to tie up, but by that point I crossed the finish line and I was done. So it was fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll
If
show.
you can convince me to do
Yeah,
a 500
yeah,
without my
yeah,
vision failing,
yeah,
without audio just going deathly silent, like
yeah.
that I cannot. The lactic is just
Well, here's the
horrible.
thing. That day, so I was 40 at the time, and that was a lifetime best. It took me 14 years to beat that mark. So
Wow.
it's the videos on YouTube. I'll send you the video. A mate of mine filmed it from the stand. You'll see. I was in such shock. I just stood up and walked away. I couldn't believe what had just happened. Yeah, it can be done if you pace it right. You can just about do it. So yeah,
Oh, I want that. I
I
want
know.
that life.
I
Yeah.
know. I need to get back in shape so I can get back to that because my times are way off at the moment. They're so
Yeah.
bad. I got
No,
a
I
lot.
don't even do it. I just have the concept two rower sitting in my garage, and I'm like, "You guys warm up on this." I can't. I
Yeah,
can't. I did have a go at like I couldn't sleep the other day,
yeah,
and for some reason I dreamt about it. It annoyed me. I know I'm now going way over time. My
that's
child
okay.
is even knocking on the door.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Um,
sorry.
the
Sorry.
I wanted to go for this world record, the 1 minute, because at
Mm,
1 minute I could semi get my head around, not the
yeah,
500.
yeah,
And I wanted to, because I'd equaled it. It was 257, and I'd equaled it.
right,
And I didn't pull on the last stroke, so I knew I could have beaten it. But
right,
obviously, I suffered at the time, and I was like, oh, I don't fancy doing that again. So
yeah,
I'll do it when I feel like it. And then
yeah.
basically years have passed, and now this other proper rower has gone and beat it and done
Oh
like
no,
365 or something.
right,
So I'm like, oh well, 357's quite a bit off 365.
yeah,
So yeah, so now I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can, because I just went angrily at
yeah,
it because I couldn't sleep.
right.
So like the next day I was like, right, I'm just going to do it, and that was off one of these. It was a Wednesday, so I was up at 10 past 3, done
Oh,
all my
yeah,
work and stuff, got into the garage. I was like, right, I'm just going to do a hard minute, and I did it,
yeah,
and I did 349.
right.
And it's at the basis of no training,
Yeah,
no, I've got no technique. I'm not doing any,
just
like,
go
it's
straight
just,
into that is good. Yeah,
yeah.
it's very good.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's good. I also am competitive, so I looked at wherever the world ranked was, and I was
Yeah,
like, okay, I want to be above that one.
yeah. But no, there's
But
I can talk to you more about pacing for 1 minute sprints and all that sort of stuff. There's a video I got on YouTube where my 1 minute PB was I was going for Mark Robertson's PB at the time, which is British
okay,
record,
yeah,
393 meters. I was targeting
yeah,
395 and I just faded a bit too much in the last 10 seconds. Crossed the line, seemingly equal to him at 393, a joint British record. I go
yeah,
to the memory screen and I get rounded down 1 meter. And so then Concept 2 said, sorry, not a record. Otherwise, I would have shared a
yeah.
certificate with him. So, yeah.
See, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I should have at the time, that world
Yeah.
record, I should have got in touch with whoever it is just
Oh,
to print it off. I just wanted to print it off, but I
yeah.
didn't.
Oh, no. I don't know if they can
Yeah.
retroactively do it.
And
There's a,
the British record, for some reason, because that one where I died in
yeah,
Australia,
yeah.
they've put me as Australian, but I'm
Oh,
British.
right.
And then even at the World Championships, when I'm
Hmm.
British, they've
Yeah.
still got it as Australian because
Oh,
somebody was saying, oh, I just got the British record for the
yeah.
500,
Hmm.
and it was like 130 odd, I think.
Right.
And Chris was like, you haven't, Jade's got it. But for some reason, like it's not anywhere.
I think there's a few
So
admin errors. I mean, even one of the old records I set a few years back, suddenly I know someone beat it, but now what
yeah,
they class as the British record on the 100 meters, there's someone else with a slower time than what I did. It's like, so
yeah.
there's a few mistakes here and there.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I should do it because I'm not doing 500 again unless you can
Yeah,
get me to not go into the lactic
yeah.
zone. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I just want to print it off. So I've got my little certificate and then people can beat it. It's no problem. But as long as I got my little bit of paper.
Hopefully there are some shorter sprints coming up because the British Champs, which is in person next month at the NEC, they
Yeah.
so the main event has the 2000 and the 500 meter, but now they set up a sprints on the day two and they're doing 100, 250 meters and 1 minute sprints. So
Yeah. See,
yeah,
that's me.
yeah. Now I've done 100 meter racing because that's how I first met Chris because I was giving him advice on how to do the Welsh 100 meters.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wanted
Did you have to kind of go a bit early or something? Is it?
Yeah, yeah, the whole thing of
To try and,
technically jumping the start.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll send you a video of me the 1 year I won it because I was always known for jumping the start or finding
Yeah.
the start. But one time I hit it just right. I pulled the handle before it said row, knowing that
Yeah.
it was a slight. When you start to pull the handle, it takes a while for the
Yeah.
flywheel to rotate.
Yeah.
And I started to pull, and by the time it activated the screen, it just flipped over to row.
Yeah.
I
Row.
basically nailed the start, and that helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Usually I mess it up. So,
Yeah. Well, I think I waited for it to say row. Now I'm like,
oh,
okay. Like,
oh no, you're going to lose about a second on that, close to a
well,
second.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's me because I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah,
Amateur.
yeah,
Like, yeah, terrible.
yeah. Oh no, no, I think there's a lot of pace still to come with you. I really do. I could see you getting down
Oh,
to
if
125s.
you can convince me to
Yeah,
get back on that bloody thing,
yeah,
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
we'll
Right,
see.
I think between me and Chris, we'll try and work on that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I need to not suffer the way that I did.
No, no, it's
That was
understandable.
terrible.
Look, if it makes you feel better, I've been physically sick at a couple of races. There
Yeah,
was, do you remember, did you ever watch Wolf of Wall Street at all? Leo DiCaprio when he's
yeah,
crawling out. Remember that bit where
yeah,
he's trying to crawl out
yeah,
to the car? That was
yeah,
once at a race. I fell off the machine at the end. I got carried over to the nearest bin and threw up. To get from
yeah,
the changing rooms took me about half an hour, and I was literally crawling
yeah,
like Leo on the
yeah.
floor. and collapsed
Yes.
again. And I was,
That's what I'm saying. You can't convince me to go back to that life. Discus
yeah,
is never like that. I can't,
that's
I
what,
do not like.
yeah, that's why I said to myself, I can't put myself through that level of pain again. So I generally post races, I don't go there. So
Yeah, that's it.
probably why I've not won as many medals as some of the others. Maybe.
Well,
Well,
still,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
That's why you can't even convince me to train for it. It's just too hard.
now I'll show you some if I can find some videos on Rob Smith. I got a few on my own YouTube channel, but I'll show you a couple of things of how he paces things. And it's once you know roughly what your pace is, you can then adjust your when you go for a 1 minute or a 500, rather than just going as fast as you can and then tailing off, you have to sort of rein in a little bit, and you can see you find a pace that you can hold all the way to the end. So
Yeah.
it can be done. It can. So
Not
yeah,
like Crystal advice. That's
yeah, yeah.
that's ruined me. Ruined the sport for me.
Chris, you're a bad man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Jade, thanks ever so much for this. And like we're saying, I'm looking forward to part two. We got to figure out when to record it. Maybe are you available in the week's time? Do you think? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
I have
Okay.
to.
I'll
Is
tell you
this going to cut off
I tell you,
this?
I'll tell you what.
Probably.
We'll figure out rather than saying the date on camera,
Yeah,
because I've still that's the
yeah,
thing. From the day we're recording this now, I've still got to edit this together and get this uploaded. But
yeah,
if we can sort something out soon, we'll talk off camera on that, and then we'll work out the part two. But for anyone wondering, part two is going to be about what you and a handful of others experience with the Paris Olympics this year, about the selection process. Because I know it got a lot of people talking. The fact it wasn't it the Telegraph and quite a few papers were running.
yeah. So there's been
Yeah, yeah,
quite a few people just in disbelief. So they were like, "Yeah, we're running this story because we can't quite believe that this is
yeah.
happening." So
That's
yeah,
why that's why I think it's better to have mixed all of that in with this. It would have got sort of muddy. So I think I think the idea of having a completely separate one, and it's
yeah,
literally I just turn it over to you and you can just explain to me, because then literally I'll be hearing it just like anyone else reading an article or whatever. It's you can just fill us
yeah,
in on what it's like from
yeah.
yours. So yeah, that sounds good.
I can send you. Anna Purchase did a really good thing on TikTok about
Okay,
like the breakdown of it. And as I said,
okay,
like she was a world finalist from the year
right,
before. So
okay.
just just bad decisions. But yeah,
Yeah.
she did a really good one, a really clear one on her TikTok account.
Okay, I'll see. I'm not on TikTok myself, but I think if someone sends me a link, I can at
I
least
can,
click on it.
yeah, I'll try and
Yeah,
send you the link. I can do that.
I think it's viewable that way. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Right, so for the first time ever, I can say this is end of part one, and part two will be coming soon. So
Sorry about
that's
that.
okay. No, no, I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, all the time I've done this, I've never done like a sequel before. So a
Here
two-parter.
we are.
Yeah, no,
Here we are.
so yeah, Jade, thanks ever so much for this. And like we said, just looking forward to going more in depth with the whole British athletics thing. So yeah, yeah,
You're
that's great.
welcome.
All
I'm glad someone wants to listen to my moans.
right. All right. Cheers.
See you later.